Yo, what is up, guys? Back here with another video. In today's video, we are going to be going over the top 10 usage Pokemon in Series 1, or VGC, competitive Pokemon, whatever you want to call it. So this is going over the statistics from one of the most recent tournaments. Obviously, the tournament has not concluded yet, so if you're seeing this video today, the day it was posted, I actually will be streaming the tournament, so you should go and check that out on Twitch, where you guys can literally watch, me play, and you can see this, action happening live. But anyways, to get right into the video, basically, essentially, what I wanted to talk about was the top 10 usage and kind of explain like what every Pokemon does, like why it's good, and kind of go into details with that, right? And also too, what I also wanted to touch on was like why there's such a difference from day 1 to day 2 usage with some Pokemon, right? Because you'll notice that there's actually quite a bit of like changes that happen between the days, so it's worth discussing. But anyways, to get right into it, basically, when it comes to day 1 usage versus day 2 usage, I'm going to focus on day 2 usage for top 10 because that's like the higher performing teams, right? Or higher performing Pokemon as a whole. And then what we'll do is, we'll still like talk about day 1 a little bit. So day 1, the usage in terms of top 10 order goes Garchomp, which is 45%, Amoonguss, which is 39%, Gholdengo, which is 35%, Murkrow, 27%, Arcanine, 27%, Grimmsnarl, 27%, Rotomwash, 23%. I'm just rounding down or up, like whatever. Hydreigon, 21%, essentially 22%, I guess if you want to round up, and then 20% for Gyarados if we're rounding up. Anyways, so why is this stat like so important compared to what it looks like on day 2? That's because day 2 has the higher performing teams, right, that have made it onto the next day of play. Now this is pretty essential because obviously what's more important than how much a Pokemon is used is how good it actually is in general, right? So actually what we have topping number 1 in usage in day 2 is actually Gholdengo. Now Gholdengo is a new Pokemon that's been added, but obviously it's incredibly strong for the metagame, and you'll notice that Arcanine usage actually drops by 1 place and doesn't have as many high placements. Now Arcanine's still good, right? And Gyarados is still good, but they have less usage in comparison to the rest of the field. Except for, Gyarados is still number 10 and it still has comparative usage, right? So there's not too much difference. But like what's making up like kind of the bottom is like different pretty much. But let's take time and go through each of the top 10 Pokemon, all right? So Gholdengo is the first one, right? Now, why is Gholdengo good? So Gholdengo typically is a Pokemon that, first off, has a really high special attack stat. Like, it has 133, which is actually incredibly strong for the metagame. And it also typically runs Choice Specs, right? So Choice Specs Gholdengo with Terra Steel plus Make It Rain is incredibly strong. And, like, that already on its own does a bunch of damage, right? So that's what makes it, like, really good in that regard. But what makes it even better, and this is what people miss, is the fact that it's paired with Murkrow and Garchomp. Now, why does this matter, right? First off, you have a really solid Steel and Dragon Core with Garchomp when you have it. You can't Earthquake next to Gholdengo, obviously. But Murkrow carries Haze, and this is like the main thing it carries, right? So Haze just completely allows you to remove any kind of stat boost that exists on the team, right? So essentially, or stat drops, I should say. Now, and stat boost as well, so you can use it for both, right? But Gholdengo with Choice Specs, it lowers its special attack with Make It Rain, and Murkrow essentially just enables it to continue to haze over and over again, and just allow it to, continuously cleanse itself of the drops. And that's actually really essential here because what you're able to do is you're just able to go for a bunch of damage with Make It Rain. And this doesn't only track with Gholdengo, and I'm going to get to this eventually, but you'll notice Hydreigon moved up to number 3 from number 8, and Hydreigon has kind of a similar thing going on with it. But we are going to talk about Garchomp first. So Garchomp is also a common member of this kind of core of Pokemon that typically work together. So Garchomp typically also pairs with Murkrow as well. Now, what does Garchomp usually run on it? So there are 2 items that are particularly popular on Garchomp at the moment. The first one is actually going to be Clear Amulet Garchomp, and Clear Amulet Garchomp essentially is like what you would expect. It's essentially just Rock Slide, Earthquake, Swords Dance, Protect, and sometimes they put Dragon Claw over Swords Dance if they don't want to be setting up. So they just go immediately for like that setup. And they're usually Terra Ground as well on Garchomp on these teams because it just allows you to go for stronger ground moves, obviously, right? There's no like overall complicated use of it besides that. Overall, like, Garchomp is just an incredibly solid Pokemon. It just takes advantage of this set pretty commonly. Then you also have the Life Orb set. The Life Orb set almost always has Dragon Claw over Swords Dance, but I have seen some with, what's it called? I have seen some with, Swords Dance on there. For the most part, though, you'll usually see Dragon Claw. So that's, like, kind of what Garchomp does, right? Then you have Hydreigon. So Hydreigon has 2 sets that I've seen. The one that I'm running, which you guys will see today if you check out the stream, I'm running Assault Vest Hydreigon, and the Assault Vest Hydreigon is always Steel type, right? There are actually 3 Hydreigon sets technically, so I'm gonna go over all 3 of them. The Steel type set with Draco Meteor, Flash Cannon, Dark Pulse, Snarl, right? That's one of the main ones. The other one is still Steel, but usually, or not Steel actually, it's Poison, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that they run. So it's Poison Hydreigon, and it's running Choice Specs. And Choice Specs Hydreigon does run Terra Blast, because they run Dark Pulse, obviously. They run Terra Blast. I saw one with Snarl, but honestly, probably something like Earth Power or like Flamethrower fits a bit better on this kind of Hydreigon. But it's just optimized towards dealing like tons of damage, right? Just to basically be really, really oppressive into the opponent. And Specs Terra Blast actually really pressures stuff like Grimmsnarl, right? It pressures a couple of other Pokemon in the metagame. So it can actually do quite a lot. It also pressures, you know, obviously opposing Sylveon, you know, opposing fairy types, which aren't too many of, to be quite honest with you. And also, there's a lot of Terra Grass in this format, so Terra Blast Poison actually does hit some things, right? And then finally, the last set that's like we're talking about is like Life Orb. Now, this one sometimes runs Tailwind. So typically, you know, you'll have like Tailwind, and then you'll have Protect, right? Tailwind, Protect. And essentially, right, like, they sometimes alter the moves here, so maybe, like, Flash Cannon, Dark Pulse, or, like, you know, some other kind of combination, where you potentially just drop a Dark Pulse entirely as well. There are a couple different options you can go with there, but mainly, you know, you will see, like, kind of the Tailwind set have to drop a offensive move. Sometimes, actually, I have seen him even run, like, Terra-type Steel, and just go like 4 moves, no Protect, right? So that's also very possible as well, because Hydreigon kind of just sits there anyways with the Steel type. It's really potent in the metagame, and it is a decent Tailwind user, right? So like you can take advantage of that. You can use that, which is nice. Amoonguss. So Amoonguss, as a Pokemon, is actually very strong. Obviously, it's just an incredibly strong redirector. This is number 4 on usage, right? Amoonguss basically is just able to utilize this regenerator ability, and its ability to like get rid of boost with Clear Smog is really nice. It is falling off a little bit only because, or not falling off, but like it is a little bit less popular, and I would probably equate that just to a lot getting knocked out because of like Murkrow being a more efficient like stat cleaner, and then also too like it is a bit more defensive, so it's only going to really be as good as on defensive teams or like against defensive teams, right? So, Amoonguss still isn't bad. It's still 14 usage out of 36 teams in cut, but it makes sense why the proportion would be less comparatively, right? Typically, Amoonguss run Occaberry, or they run, you know, some other kind of berry, but Occaberry seems to be the most common right now, just because it lowers the amount of fire-type damage you would take. I could see another item being good on it, though, considering how many, I've seen Rocky Helmet, too, with Terra-type Water, by the way, but, like, I could definitely see some other, like, Terra-types being good on it. Murkrow, as well, we've obviously talked about it already. Murkrow is, like, really good. It's, like, a Tailwind Pokemon. And it actually has a really potent move pool. So, like, you could run a Sash set with it, right? Run, like, Air Slash, Icy Wind, Tailwind, Haze, right? So that's one that you can run. You can run Eviolite with Foul Play, right? Foul Play, Quash, Haze, Tailwind. So that's another one, right? So there are a bunch of different options that you have. You know what I mean? That you could take advantage of. And obviously you can mix and match sets, but that's kind of the main stuff that you can take advantage of. I've also seen it run Terra Ghost as well, so it can't get sniped by something like Extreme Speed. It can't get, you know, hit by Fake Out. There's just a bunch of stuff it can take advantage of. But yeah. Then Arcanine. So Arcanine, pretty much the same as it's been being used for a while. You can run like a berry on it, Flare Blitz, Will-O-Wisp, Snarl. It's just a little less popular, I think, because of all the clear Amulet Chomp in the metagame right now. You know, so it's having it's struggling a little bit to kind of keep up, right? With like the consistent, you know, immunities to stat drops. You know, you have to rely on Wisp. I do think what could end up being a really good set on Arcanine is Shuka, just because of the amount of clear Amulet Chomp. Shuka could probably be like a really solid item besides like the other berries. Armarouge making 7 actually was really surprising to me, but it does actually have some pretty decent utility. So people only think of like the Expanding Force Size Spam set as like the main one, but it does get access to some other useful tools as well. It can run stuff like Goggles. So it has Armor Cannon, right? It still can run Expanding Force, but it actually gets access to Wide Guard and Trick Room, which are actually like pretty good utility moves in this format. And Wide Guard Armarouge is actually really annoying for opposing Gholdengo to deal with. So I could actually see it being like really potent here. Also, Armarouge's bulk is actually pretty decent, and like Armor Cannon hits pretty hard with its fire moves, so it makes a lot of sense that it would be like relevant, right? Next up is Annihilape. So Annihilape, actually, there are 2 sets that are run on it usually, right? So Annihilape at number 8 is like not too surprising to me. It's a decently potent Pokemon that can be utilized. It actually went up 1 in usage from day 1 to day 2. And there are 2 sets that I usually see run on it. First one is the Final Gambit Scarf set. So they usually run, you know, Final Gambit, Shadow Claw, Close Combat. You can run U-Turn on it as your final move with a Choice Scarf, right? And essentially you can just click Final Gambit turn 1 into, you know, an opponent to just trade a Pokemon immediately. It has a super high HP stat. It goes all the way up to 217 base stat, which is like crazy. So it can do like a lot. And then you have the, you know, you have like the normal Annihilape set, or not the normal one, but like the more common one. There are actually 2 technically. Bulky Safety Goggles with Terra Fire Annihilape and Rage Fist, right? So there are 2 of them, basically. Terra Fire Annihilape with Rage Fist. Where is the fire type? There we go. With Drain Punch, Rage Fist, Bulk Up, and Protect, right? This is the first one. This one is actually just, like, really good at walling, like, opposing Amoonguss. You know, it obviously walls, you know, opposing Sleep. Just very good with that kind of stuff, and you can get burned. And then the other bulky Annihilape set that you see is going to be Terra Water. And they only use these Terra types defensively, by the way. There's no use, like, offensively for these types that they take advantage of. Terra Water with Lumberry. And this one is a little bit more susceptible to Amoonguss, but you're also, like, protecting yourself from burn. But Terra Water is arguably a better defensive type. So it's like, you do it based on your team, right? But yeah, that's typically what Annihilape likes to do. Now, next up on usage is Dondozo. So Dondozo is a Pokemon that, like, I actually saw run pretty differently across this tournament, but there are like 3 different usages of it that I've seen. Obviously, you pair this with Tatsugiri, but we're going to focus on Dondozo for this. So for the most part, what I've noticed is that Unaware is like the best ability by like a huge mile. So like it's definitely something that you would want to utilize more. Now, in terms of the type it utilizes, if you're running Steel type on it, it's usually going to be something like Order Up, Earthquake, Substitute, and Protect. Actually, the Safety Goggles one doesn't usually run Substitute. They usually run Liquidation. I haven't seen them with Substitute, at least. Then you have the Leftovers set, right? And the Leftovers set typically goes with Order Up, Earthquake, Substitute, Protect, right? And they're Terra Dragon. I've seen this one, right? Terra Dragon just lets you get a lot of damage off of your Order Up, which is why I assume they run it. And Unaware obviously makes you ignore other people's stat boosts. And then finally, you have... I saw a Choice Band Dondozo. I'm not sure how common this is with Terra Ground. I think it was just so you could spam Earthquake after you get the boost. I'm not the biggest fan of Choice Band because it is a bit limiting. But I have seen Leftovers with Terra Steel as well as an option. You know, I've also seen it with Terra Grass. So keep that in mind too. And that one's usually Order Up, Liquidation, Earthquake, and then Substitute. And sometimes you have Protect, by the way, over Liquidation, because Liquidation seems like it's becoming less and less important. But yeah, these are like the 3 main Dondozos that you would like come to expect in the tournament, right? But I would say overall, right, this is kind of the standard Dondozo sets that you'll run into in tournament, right? Now, finally, the number 10 Pokemon, Gyarados. So Gyarados basically has like a couple different uses. It does actually get access to a wide move pool that it can take advantage of. But the main issue that Gyarados typically has in the metagame right now is that it's incredibly susceptible to... It's basically incredibly susceptible to like opposing Pokemon that can just get going a bit faster, like opposing Draco Meteors, opposing, you know, Rock Slides, opposing Gholdengos that just chunk it with Shadow Ball. And like sometimes they tech Thunderbolt on Gholdengo as well, which is actually really scary for Gyarados. Typically you'll see the Terra Blast Dragon Dance set with Clear Amulet, and if you don't see that set, usually the set that I would come to expect would be like a Berry, like some kind of recovery, Waterfall, Helping Hand, and then like Terra Blast still. I've seen both Terra Blast Grass and Terra Blast Flying, and sometimes you could change Helping Hand for like another move like Thunderbolt, you know, or not Thunderbolt, sorry, Thunder Wave. But yeah, there are a couple different options there. But the metagame's in a really interesting spot right now. Metas typically in the beginning tend to favor more offensive teams anyway. So I wouldn't panic when you see like Gholdengo at #1 in usage and like Garchomp Hydreigon and be like, oh my god, this format's only gonna be offensive stuff. Like, we still have time to like figure out these defensive answers before San Diego, which is the first regional for Series 1. And I think unless they like add more Pokemon, then this, then it obviously would change. But I think we have more time. There's a giant Victory Road tournament next week as well, which I'm sure will be helpful for usage in general. But this is like a really good first look at like the metagame and like what's going to be popular, right? So like right now, my top 3 teams that I can gather from this usage that I would be prepared for would probably be, or like Pokemon rather, that I'd prepare for would be Gholdengo, Garchomp, Hydreigon. Like, you have to respect all those Pokemon. Murkrow Tailwind teams in general, and then I'd say honestly, like just having an Amoonguss answer on your team is very important as well, and Dondozo obviously. Dondozo I think is actually going to drop in popularity because a lot of the teams in Cut, like, they made it there off of the teams that just didn't have answers, but a lot of teams in Top Cut have answers for Dondozo. So I'd be surprised if Dondozo actually wins. But you can obviously see that. And again, I'll be live on Twitch right after you see this video. You can go check it out. I'll be streaming tournament games, and also too, make sure to drop a like, subscribe if you guys enjoyed the video, and make sure to check out Patreon if you guys would like to support me beyond beyond just the videos, watching the videos, which I incredibly appreciate regardless. So thank you guys so much for watching the video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. This was informative, and I'll see you guys next video. Peace.